Good afternoon. I'm John Micali with Allied Building Inspection Services. Very pleased and excited to bring you some really meaningful information and dialogue here. I am joined today by Dr. Dennis Watson, who is an assistant professor of medical oncology for the University of Miami Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Clinic. Welcome, doctor. We're going to talk a little bit today about radon and radon gas, something that, we've had a real estate contract rider for radon gas since the 80s. We've known about radon gas, but quite frankly, owning a building inspection company for 33 years, we didn't do a lot of radon testing until the last 5 or so years. It was something you couldn't see, something you couldn't smell, and quite frankly, I thought, years ago, I thought maybe there was a little bit of fish oil to this, that you can't see, you can't smell it, but it costs money to fix it. And so we didn't really push it, and the real estate community didn't push it, even though there was a rider. And then COVID happened, and we had a mass migration of residents from Pennsylvania, New York, Virginia, these northern states where radon is assumingly more prevalent, and that there are laws. In some of those counties up there, you're required to get a radon test as part of a real estate transaction. And so we started doing a lot more, and lo and behold, we started finding we have radon. We have elevated radon. So there's minimum thresholds for radon and whatnot, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So before I do that, let me let Dr. Watson opine and add and more to what I just said. Tell us what you think about all this.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot for the invitation, John. It's a real pleasure to be able to speak with you and hopefully shed some light on this very, very important issue for public health, in my opinion. As you know, I'm a medical oncologist, so on a daily basis, I have to think about treating patients with cancer. And in fact, my specialty specifically focuses on lung cancer, wow, as well as head and neck in the clinic. So I come in contact with this concept on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, wow. Well, thank you. So, let's dive right into that. Sure. The danger of radon gas is in fact cancer, is it not? And so radon causes cancer. How does it cause cancer?
Yeah. So as you alluded to, radon is something that occurs naturally in the environment. It's produced essentially by naturally occurring radioactive material in the soil, in rocks, or in groundwater sometimes. And as this gas is released, it can accumulate in closed structures like homes, offices, or really any other kind of building that's closed off from the environment. And of course, since it's in the air and builds up, we breathe it in. So we're breathing in these radioactive gas particles in very small amounts, but over time, small amounts of this radioactive gas particle actually enters the lung tissue, where you're essentially exposing the lungs to radiation, and then that can cause cancer over years.
All right, so is it just lung cancer, or are there other types of cancer that are caused by this?
That's a great question. So we know mostly about lung cancer. And the reason is, there's no experiment where you can take people and expose them to radon or not and kind of follow. So we have to infer these connections between the gas and cancer by studying people in different neighborhoods or different regions of the country that have different levels of radon gas, and say, are you more likely to get lung cancer in one area or one home or another? So lung cancer is fairly common, and so we're able to make those conclusions robustly or accurately, as we would say. Other cancers that are more rare, it's harder to be sure about the conclusion. So I guess that's a long way of saying that probably yes, but it's unclear at this time.
And so obviously there's a bunch of different things that cause cancer. I mean, we know mesothelioma, we know smoking. Mm-hmm. What do you know about the prevalence of lung cancer caused by radon? Is there a percentage or some statistics you can give us on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there is no doubt the number one cause of lung cancer overall is exposure to smoke, smoking, especially tobacco smoke. But if we look at people that are non-smokers, actually radon exposure is considered the number one cause of lung cancer in people that do not smoke.
Wow.
And if you want an actual number in the United States, it comes out to about over 20,000 people die annually in the United States from lung cancer that's a result of radon gas.
20,000 people die a year? Not
Correct.
20,000 cases, 20,000 people
more
die.
than 20,000 people
Wow.
die of lung cancer related to radon gas.
Wow, that's no joke. Okay, great. And so radon, from my studying and understanding, it is a bit ubiquitous. It could come out of the ground anywhere. So it is kind of everywhere. So we are exposed to it. It seems like we're all exposed to it on some level. Is that not the case? And like, what are the levels that are acceptable?
Yeah, so it comes down to how much and for how long. There are differences across the country. So there are clearly states and areas that have generally higher levels. But that being said, even if we look at areas that have low or moderate levels of radon, like Florida, there is still tremendous variation at not just the neighborhood level, but from house to house. And there's really no way of knowing unless you look for it and test it, which hopefully we'll touch on in a bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned levels, and depending on different organizations have different cutoffs where one might need to do something about radon gas in a home or a workplace. And the numbers that you'll hear a lot about are 2.7 picocurie per liter. So that's the limit set by the World Health Organization. And then you'll also hear about 4 picocurie per liter, which is the limit set to act by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency.
I was aware of the 4.0 picocuries per liter. I was not aware that there was a lower threshold of 2.7. So is the action level 2.7 or is it 4.0?
I think that the important question to ask is there a level of radon gas exposure that is safe? And the short answer is no. Okay, the lower the better. And lower is not zero, is let's say lower is closer to what you would be exposed in the outside environment, which is less than 1 picocurie per liter. And then it becomes more a question of cost and feasibility to really decide where do you want to set a line. And that's how these thresholds were really set, was thinking about cost and feasibility versus risk.
Okay, so with that said, if I'm living in a home with an elevated radon level, how concerned should I be?
Yeah, I think you should be concerned, especially if the higher the level is, the higher the risk. So the higher that level, the more I would be concerned. And more importantly, I think it's not just about being concerned, it's about doing something about it. Trying to get those levels lower so that in the long term you can lower your risk of lung cancer.
Okay, great. So are there cofactors, it's people who are especially susceptible, or other things like smoking, things that will add to additional risk with this?
Yeah. So the best risk factor we know that interacts in a bad way with radon is smoking. So smoking itself causes lung cancer and is a risk factor for lung cancer. And when you add radon gas to that, the risk of lung cancer from radon gas increases by about 25 times.
Not 25%, 25 times.
Correct.
So wait, let me make sure I understand. It's not being the mathematician here.
Yeah.
You have 25 times more likely, 25 times more of a chance to get lung cancer if you smoke and you're exposed to radon?
25 times the chance of getting lung cancer from radon gas.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I can give you some numbers. So I actually print out these 2 tables to make sure we give your viewers the right information. So let's say there is a house that's at 4, which is the action level that the EPA sets, right? So a non-smoker, if you have 1,000 homes like that, 4 people will get lung cancer from radon gas. Okay, so 4 out of 1,000. If they are smokers, and it's the same level in that home, okay, 62 people will develop lung cancer.
Wow. Okay, that's scary statistics. So you say you've been living in a home with an elevated radon. Are there symptoms, things that you will see as a result of this?
Yeah. Unfortunately, like most cancers, there really are not warning signs far in advance. So of course, if someone were to develop cancer, then eventually symptoms will develop. But you can't really know that before. And again, it comes down to knowing the level and knowing how you can mitigate that, how you can decrease that level way before you get to the point of cancer.
Okay. Do you recommend some sort of a screening for somebody who knows they've been exposed to radon at an elevated level?
It's a good question, and there's a lot of discussion always in the medical community. Who do we screen? Where can we really make the biggest impact? And the short answer for radon gas is right now there is no recommendation for extra screening. If someone is a smoker, a long-time smoker, above a certain age, above a certain number of cigarettes that they've smoked in their lifetime, anyway, these people should get screening CT scans, pictures of their chest. But radon alone right now is not indicated to do any screening.
Okay, if I have children or maybe elderly, are there factors like that make people more susceptible because of radon?
Yeah, for children, I would say there's at least a theoretical increased risk from the radon gas. Their lungs are smaller, so they actually go through a larger volume of air, per weight, for their size. They just go through more air. They breathe faster. So at least theoretically, they're just inhaling more of the radon gas. And in addition, because children are growing, their cells are dividing. And what we know is that when cells divide is when they tend to be most sensitive to things like radon gas and other radioactive exposures.
Wow. So being the clinician and the doctor you are, if somebody comes to you, you have a patient and they have lung cancer, would you then, and maybe they weren't a smoker, would you then go back and have them test their house for elevated radon in it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't make that recommendation right now, but certainly in a non-smoker that has lung cancer, radon exposure is the most likely reason that they got it.
Wow, most likely, huh? Amazing. So if you've been exposed to radon for, let's say you find out you've lived in an elevated, you still want to go and reduce your risk at that point, right? That's important. And so what are the factors involved in that? Do you want to move out of the house? Do you want to remediate it in the house? Like what would be an acceptable outcome for that, and what in all likeliness there?
Yeah. I think in an ideal world, we would be testing at several time points in the lifespan of a house, let's say. I would certainly test before purchasing a house. Ideally, if there's an opportunity before renting, or leasing a house, I would want to know those levels if possible. So that's an opportunity. And depending on if there are changes to things like the air conditioning system, the ventilation system, or major construction, you may want to recheck, because these are all things that change the levels. And if at some point, someone were to find out that they have elevated radon levels, I would say it would be important to think about how to get those down. It doesn't matter if you just moved in or if you've lived there for 10 years, okay? If you did get that level down, you will decrease your chances of getting lung cancer in the future.
Okay, interesting. Okay. These opinions, what you've just told me about this, is this widely accepted in the medical community? Because you don't really hear much about this. You would think this would be something really out there.
So, certainly in the lung cancer community, the physicians in lung cancer, we do talk about radon gas exposure. More broadly, as I mentioned, the World Health Organization clearly recognizes this as a risk, as do practically all major medical communities, the American Cancer Society, the American Lung Society, the American Medical Association, the EPA. So all the major medical societies do recognize radon gas as an important risk factor.
You say that, but I know that once, twice, 3 times a week, I will hear a anti-smoking ad, and it's usually somebody who's had a trait put in, or they've got OCP or something. But I never hear a radon ad. You know, is that, or then is it like how, compared to lung cancer from smoking, is it that little that they just use it as almost a rounding error or something?
I think I think part of it is a numbers issue. So most cases of lung cancer are still in people that smoke. This is true. So if you want to make an immediate impact, you know, that's the place that you may want to think about, you know, spending advertising dollars from a public health perspective. But, you know, we're seeing that the numbers of smokers getting lung cancer is decreasing over time. Because indeed there are less people smoking. So these campaigns are working to some extent. And what that means is that the percentage of lung cancers that are attributed to non-smokers is going up. And so I think that calculus of who do we need to target as far as you know, awareness of ways to decrease your risk, we may see that shifting.
Okay, interesting. Well, we've come to have this conversation because you yourself got a radon test. We've had the honor of serving you, and you got a radon test, and I don't want to disclose what the outcome of all that was, but what's your advice? Do you recommend that everybody get a radon test of their dwelling and workspace?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I actually looked this up because I was curious. I looked up how many houses in Florida have gotten radon tested.
Oh, the EPA tracks all that.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is actually a study from the American Lung Society, and the data goes up to 2016. So it's not you know, up to date, but you know, relatively recent.
Okay.
So apparently in the 10 years preceding 2016, so 2006 to 2016, there were less than 6 out of 1,006 tests for every 1,000 homes in Florida.
Wow.
Okay. So it is a tiny fraction of the houses that have been tested. You know, and speaking with people like yourself that you know, you do see these results coming in and seeing some values that are clearly above what anyone would consider an actionable limit. You know, this makes me really want to advocate for more broad testing of radon gas as a way to help our community to decrease really the chance of cancer, lung cancer.
Yeah. Well, I myself had an experience. I had mentioned before that I bought a triplex, and I felt compelled, you know, people living in there, I'm going to test it. I tested it, and sure enough, the levels were over the 4.0. And so I got it mitigated, and I had some experience with mitigation, but I was surprised it was relatively inexpensive for the severity. Granted, it was several $1,000s each unit. It ended up being about $10,000 for the 3 units. But in comparison to, you know, the risk involved, and it was a fairly simple and somewhat passive remediation. It added air to the home in a way that would positively pressurize the home and push the air out so that the radon levels came down. So it's relatively inexpensive, and for what it is. And so I have to believe that anybody who's got kids would, you know, anybody who knew that they had this would be something they'd be willing to spend, or wouldn't be a question of spending a couple of $1,000s. So I think it's something that needs to be broadly put out there. It's a relatively easy fix for the severity. If we could fix and prevent cancer from smoking for a couple of $1,000, right? Or if we could prevent diabetes for a couple of $1,000s in your house, you know, that would be like a no-brainer probably. And so I kind of feel like the community, whether it be the real estate community, the health community, we're not taking this serious enough. That you know, our own empirical data is that roughly 20 to 23% of the properties we test are above our elevated levels, almost 1 in 4. So, you know, anybody, you know, who knew their kids were going to grow up in an environment where their chances of getting lung cancer is greatly increased, that's something that we all should know. And I feel like maybe there should be laws. Again, I'm not one of these people that want to put all these laws in play. Is there anything that you know of coming that's good, there's more action on this, or moving forward?
Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm not aware of anything, and I think there are multiple issues at play that make this complicated. So you're right. If we look at the real estate market in Miami, where a significant portion of this is selling homes that are on the upper end of pricing compared to the rest of the country, sure, a couple $1,000s may not be a big issue. I think there are other communities where this may be an expense that's not affordable. So I think that's one big question that we would have to think about more as a community and as different partners, different stakeholders, right? So we can think about people in the real estate industry. We can think about homeowners as a stakeholder, healthcare institutions like ourselves here at Sylvester Cancer Center, but also the public health community and the government. Because again, there will be people that may find out they have elevated levels that just may not be able to afford to do that fix, to do the mitigation. So what do you tell those people? What do you tell them as far as knowing something that they may not be able to do anything about? And what implications that would have also on things like health insurance, right? So now are you at risk for lung cancer?
Oh boy.
Life insurance, your home value. So these are critical questions that I think there are not a lot of people, at least there are not a lot of high-profile discussions that I'm aware of. Okay, they may be going on, but at least not very high-profile. Certainly, I would say in the more the upper ends of the market, the real estate market, I think this would be a small burden to bear, given the cost of a lot of homes and the the kinds of people that can afford them.
Oh, very well said. Yeah, letting that genie out of the bottle, now that you explain the implications on, you have a health insurance company, send us your radon test for your house and all the things that could bring and then your home devalues. Some of the most impacted communities in the United States by high radon are in Pennsylvania. And they're in very, I would say middle class, very, working class families. And they have whole blocks and streets and communities that have had mitigation because the levels are so high. And I'm sure that was a painful thing to go to, but, I know that these people, you hear I've read stories about how, generations of them would get lung cancer and stuff. So I'm sure everybody would want to be doing that. I'm sure I've left something out here, Dr. Watson. What am I missing about radon and all these things?
Yeah. So I think the key thing to understand is that there, as we said, there is no safe level. I think in most cases, knowledge is power. So once you know the risk, the first step is knowing what the risk is. And once you do that, then at least, you can be in a position, one can be in a position to make an informed decision of what they can do, what's feasible to lower that risk. The ways that are available to lower radon levels, a lot of them are not overly costly, as you mentioned. So I think in many cases, it's something that we can do, that can be done. And I think that home sales, especially in Florida and in the greater Miami area, where there is this turnover of real estate and people buying new properties or buying properties, I think this is a real opportunity to advocate for more widespread testing, and then of course mitigation when the time comes.
Excellent. Well, maybe you can lead the charge in that from your position. We'll do whatever we can do to help. We're going to certainly recommend, and we have been recommending, radon testing. Whoever comes to us, it's the first thing. My friend, people call me, I'm buying this house. What do you recommend? I want a home inspection. Wait. First thing is a radon test. That's it, right? Then you can worry about the sticks and bricks. So that's the way we're going. This has been excellent, Dr. Watson. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I hope this is going to educate people and help them and make our community safer. And people find out if they have radon in their homes and avoid this very tragic thing that you're dealing with all the time in your studies. So thank you so much for joining me and for your time.
My pleasure.